Hi, this is time value of money chapter. Time value of money is one of the most important topic in finance. So please spend your time to understand this material. Once you understand time value of money, you're gonna have a lot easier time in understanding other material in finance. So time value of money is the key for success in any finance courses. In this topic, I'm gonna, you can understand what is meant by time value of money and its importance. You'll be able to compute present value, future value of single cash flow or series of cash flows, and you'll be able to compute the rate of return on investment. You'll be able to use financial calculator or a spreadsheet to solve time value of money problems. And you'll understand what is perpetuity and what is annuity. The chapter outline. Basically, in this chapter, I'm going to briefly introduce you the time value of money concept. So, what is time value of money? Why it's important to learn in finance? And before we start solving problems in time value of money, I'm gonna briefly introduce you. Briefly talk about annual percentage rate and effective annual rate. I'll also talk about simple versus compounding interest rate. Then talk about present value and do several present value problems. Similarly, explain future value and solve several future value problems. Also, I'm going to show you how to find out rate of return on investment and investment period, loan amortization. So basically, I'm going to show you how to find payments and how to create a amortization schedule using Excel and financial calculator. And also, I'm going to talk about application of time value of money. Okay, so let's start. What is time value of money? Before talking about time value of money, let me just briefly talk about the assumption we make, we people. For example, there are three basic assumptions. Uh, so people, so for now and for later. So two for now, one for later. Okay. Um, People prefer more money to less money. It's a human. Anybody, even 2 years old uh, child, if you give a choice between $1 and $10, you know, he does not know, he or she does not know any reason, but he still um, will like more to less. People want money sooner than later. If your dad says, son or daughter, do you want $500 now or $500 2 years from now? If you have this choice, definitely the reason could be anything. You like money sooner than later. Okay, and other one that for later is it's a risk aversion. People prefer certainty to uncertainty. So future is uncertain. So if you are given choice between present and future, you want present. Okay, so the whole idea is uh, suppose if you have a choice, okay, um, which would you choose if you have choice to get $1,000 today and $1,000 5 years from now? Obviously, anybody will choose $1,000 today. Why? You don't have to do any time value of money computation, but think about those assumptions. We want sooner than later, and also future is uncertain. Yes, you're gonna get $1,000 today, but you don't know about future. So the whole idea is money received sooner rather than later allows us or someone to use the funds for investment or consumption. Okay, so if you have $1,000, you can use that fund for investment, or you can buy something, and so that's the whole thing. So money today, you have money today, you can use that money for investment or to buy something. So this concept in finance is referred as time value of money. In other words, a dollar today is more than a dollar tomorrow. Okay, because a dollar today can earn some interest. A dollar has potential to earn some return, some interest. So this concept in finance is called time value of money. Our dollar today is worth more than a dollar tomorrow. It is time value of money concept. Okay, so the main insight that will start uh, with that a dollar paid today is worth more than a dollar paid tomorrow. Why time? Why we talk about time? Basically, time is money. Time allows you the opportunity to postpone your consumption and earn interest. Okay, you have $100. You can deposit that $100 in your bank account, and you can earn interest, or you can invest. You can invest your $100 in some securities and earn some returns. Okay, so this is very important. Time is very important. Time allows us to earn interest. Okay, that's why time is important. So not having the opportunity to earn interest on money is called opportunity cost. So uh, time is important. Why is the time value of money concept is important? Think about two different investment. Okay, how do you compare two different investment? Which one is better? Which should you choose? It's just like comparing two different fruits, an apple and orange. They are fruits, we know for sure, but can you compare these two fruits? Yes, we can compare. They are both fruits, but we want to compare more uh, in more specific terms. Okay, how do you convert an apple to orange or orange to apple so that it's easy to compare? Okay, so time value of money helps us to, it's a tool, helps us to compare amounts in different time periods. So dollar today and dollar 1 year from now, they are just similar example is like apple and orange. A dollar today is an apple, and a dollar 1 year from now is orange. Okay, so how do you compare these two different things? And time value of money helps us, you know, to make a right decision, to come, to helps us to compare these two different things, makes them comparable. So you can convert the present, to a dollar today to the future value, or a dollar 1 year from now to present value, and you can compare between these two. So one can adjust value from different time period using interest. So if you add interest amount in a dollar for 1 year, then you can get the value of a dollar 1 year from now. We call that future value. So remember, one cannot compare numbers in different time periods without adjusting them using an interest rate. Okay, so our dollar today is different from our dollar tomorrow, because a dollar today worth more than a dollar tomorrow, because it can earn interest. So when you compare a dollar today and a dollar tomorrow, you have to make them comparable. So you have to adjust the effect of interest to make them comparable. So the time value of money helps us to make this type of decision. So it's a comparison tool. It adjusts the value of future amount um, to present, or present amount to future. So you can adjust the value of future amount uh, and find the present value, or you can find the future value of the present amount or lump sum amount or series of cash flows and make them comparable. So time value of money is very important because it's a powerful financial decision making tool. Helps us compare between two different types of investment. Time value of money um, helps us, you know, to choose um, from different types of investment. Helps us, in capital budgeting. Helps you to uh, prepare your retirement planning. So there are several applications of time value of money used by financial and non-financial business managers, and key to making sound personal financial decisions. For example, you have two choices, A and B. Which one is better? Should you invest in first? Should you invest in this A and B option? Okay, if yes, then which should you choose, A or B? Things like that. Time value of money helps us to make decision on your investment, on your retirement, on your capital budgeting, and things like that. Okay, so why time value of money is important is basically proper consideration of time value of money is critical for the comparison of cash flows with different timing. So it helps you investment decision investment decision, in project valuation, security valuation, etc., etc. Okay, so it's very important concept in finance. I would say it's the most important concept in finance, because once you understand how this time value of money works, and there will be no problem for you to understand other material. For example, security valuation, capital budgeting, all of these different things in finance, they use time value of money concept to solve finance problems. Okay, so let's talk about cash flows briefly. So in time value of money, it is so important to understand uh, the amount of the cash flows and timing of the cash flows. Okay, so cash flow timing is key to successful business operation. Okay, so if you get $100 today, and if you are getting $100 5 years from now, they are different. So it's a key. Cash flow is the key. Cash flow time. There is a difference between you are getting a million today and a million 10 years from now. Okay, so when I talk about $100, maybe you don't think much important, but if you think about $1 million today and $1 million 10 years, 5 years from now, they are really different things. So cash flow analysis, you need to know timeline shows the magnitude of cash flows at different time, at different point in time. So I'm going to talk about that later on. And these cash flows could be monthly, could be quarterly, could be semi-annual, could be annual, could be weekly, could be daily. So the timing of the cash flow, timing and the size of the cash flow could be different. Okay, and whenever you have cash flow, you receive cash. This is inflow. So in your Excel or in your calculator, use a positive sign in front of that number. And when you have cash outflow, basically means you pay cash or cash is going out, use a negative number. Okay. Um, how to solve time value of money problems? Okay. First of all, I'll draw a timeline, and I'll show you how to draw a timeline later on. First, draw a timeline. 0 for now, and 1 for next time period, and so and so, so and so. Okay. So then identify the pattern of cash flow. If this cash flow is for perpetuity, okay, so series of regular cash flows that continue forever. So identify that. So you have perpetual cash flow. You have annuity, series of even or uneven cash flows. You have a single cash flow or lump sum cash flow. So draw a timeline and put your cash flows correctly on the timeline and use appropriate equation or formula. So you can use a formula, you can use a financial calculator, you can use Excel spreadsheet, or you can use time value of money table. Okay, this is the key. First, draw a timeline, then identify the pattern of the cash flows, then use appropriate tool to solve the problem. Okay, and in this course, mostly I'm going to use financial calculator and Excel. Okay, because I'm going to talk about briefly talk about the formula and but financial calculator and Excel, they are really handy, very easy to understand, and helps you significantly to solve this time development problems. And repeat step 2 and 3 as often as necessary to solve the problem. Okay, so that's how we're going to solve this problem. Also, before jumping to the time value of money problems, in other words, present value or future value, I'm gonna briefly explain you know, annual interest rate and effective interest rate. So, what is APR? When you go to buy a car, you'll see APR 4.5%. That's your APR. What does that mean? Always, whenever you see the rates, any rate, any interest rate, they are stated rate, in the contract. They are quoted rates by the banks or broker. So whenever you see a rate, those rates are APR, annual percentage rate, nominal interest rate. So for example, if you see 10% semi-annual, actually you are paying more than 10%. If you have 10% annual interest rate, then yes, the same is the annual percentage rate is same as effective annual rate. However, if there is more than one compounding, then APR and effective rate, they are not the same. For example, if 10% compounding monthly, definitely it's not 10%. You are paying more than 10%. What does that mean? Means every single month, the principal amount uh, is going to generate interest. So if it's monthly, every single month, your principal amount earns interest, and then that interest also earns interest next month. Okay, first month you have $100 makes interest, and then next time that $100 plus whatever interest you earn is going to make interest. Okay, so that's the compounding. So effective annual rate, or EFF, is the annual rate after considering the effect of multi-period compounding. Okay, for example, 10% APR monthly compounding equals to 10.47% effective rate. How to find out this effective rate? Okay, so I'm going to show you two different ways. Okay, you can use Excel and you can use your financial calculator. Uh, so let's see this example using Excel. Okay, so let me open Excel. This is very easy. So APR equals to 10%. Okay, so you want to find out effective rate. How do you do that? Equals to uh, type EFFECT, start the parenthesis, and nominal rate, which is APR, then follow the instruction here. So it says comma and number of periods. Okay, so how many times you are, what is the number of compounding? So in this case we have monthly compounding. That means 12 times a year your interest will make interest. Okay, you're gonna get interest. So 12 compounding. So 12, close parenthesis. Okay, so if you format this one is 10.47%. Okay, we can also use the financial calculator. So let me use this BA2 plus financial calculator to solve the same problem. So we have, let me just clean this one. Okay, so what you need to do is second, and here is a interest conversion. So second to number 2. Okay, second number 2. So it's gonna take you to the interest conversion function in this calculator. So this NOM stands for nominal rate or annual percentage rate. So in this case, let me clean this one because it has a number. So let's put that 10%. Okay, enter. The calculator tells you what to do. So enter. Okay, once you enter, you have this forward facing triangle, and then second thing you're gonna do is go up or down. So this is key to go up, this is key to go down. So if you do click on this one, you're gonna go up, then it's gonna tell you compounding per year. Okay, if it's monthly compounding, it's 12. If it's daily compounding, is 365. If it is annual compounding, it's 1. So if you put 1, it's annual compounding. If it's quarterly compounding, then it's 4. If it's semi-annual, this is 2. So you just define what compounding. So in our case, we have monthly compounding, which is 12 times a year. So let's put that. And then make sure you enter. Otherwise, if you don't see this forward-facing triangle, then you have not entered that number. So go up. Now, what do you need to do? All you need to do is, because you want this effective rate, all you need to do is hit on this compute button. Okay, compute. So 10.47%. Okay, so this is how you're gonna use your financial calculator or Excel to compute effective rate. And later on we're gonna use that effective rate. That's why I'm just explaining what is the difference between effective rate and annual rate. And here is the calculator key I have put for you. So you put second, and then interest conversion, which is number 2. Go up, put 12, and that's the that's the compounding. And if this one is a little bit different than what I did just now. So go interest conversion, go up, put the compounding, and come down, put the nominal rate, and go down and compute. You're going to get effective rate. Actually, what I would like to do is put in interest rate conversion, second interest rate conversion, and then put the nominal rate 10% and go up. So up key, and then put the compounding, and then again go up, then you'll get effective so compute, you can get the effective rate, and the screen will show you 10.47. Okay, so annual percentage rate is typically quoted rate on a loan agreement is equal to the rate for period multiplied by number of periods. So this rate is called annual percentage rate, and the APR is quoted rate, is not the effective rate. Okay, so you can use a formula to find effective rate. In general, nominal rate is referred as annual percentage rate. So the rates can be called sometimes discount rate, or sometimes called APR, sometimes called nominal rate. So basically, whatever you have, that those rates are quoted rate. So um, and then compounding period, we can denote compounding period as N. If you use the formula, effective rate equals to 1 plus nominal rate. So divide that rate by compounding to get the periodic rate. And how many times compounding? Raised to the number of compounding. Take out -1, you're gonna get the effective rate. Okay. So let's see our examples. So assume that your credit card company offers you 9.9% APR. So you're gonna pay monthly. Okay. So even the problem does not say monthly compounding. You know that you're gonna pay monthly. So that means it's monthly compounding. So what is the rate you are paying on your credit card balance? So 1 plus, I would like to put a decimal format of the percentage 9.9. So 0.099 divided by compounding, which is 12, raised to whole thing raised to 12 minus 1. That's going to give you 10.36%. Okay, it's equal to 0.1036, which is equal to 10.36%. So your APR 9.9% is not your effective rate. Okay, that is your uh, nominal rate, and the effective rate actually you are paying interest is 10.36%. Let's think about payday loan. Okay, from payday, people can borrow money for 2 weeks. So, for example, assume you borrow $200 for 2 weeks from a payday lender, and they charge you $38. Okay, let's do this example. What is your effective annual percentage rate? Okay, this is the formula. So, first of all, you need to find out the rate per period. So you have $38 fees, and then you borrow $200. So 38 divided by 200 is going to give you a rate for 2 weeks, which is 0.19 equals to 19%. Okay, so your rate per period, which is nominal rate divided by compounding. Okay, so this whole thing here is 19%. Okay, so let's plug those now that 19% in our formula. So 1 plus rate per period, which is nominal rate divided by M. Okay, so in this case, this is rate per period equals to 19%. Okay, and then the rate is for 2 weeks. So what is the number of compounding in a year? So 2 weeks, there are 52 weeks. So it's a rate for 2 weeks. So 52 divided by 2 is 26. Okay. So 1 plus 19% raised to 26 minus 1 equals to 91.09 equals to 9,109%. So think this $38 2x fee from payday loan. So what is the effective annual rate? Okay. So if you want to find APR you just multiply by number of compounding. So rate per period, and then is 26 period, which is 494%. So APR is 494%, but your effective rate is 9,109%. Okay, let's look another one. So APR versus effective rate. So for example, that's 10% compounding monthly. So using formula, you use 1 plus 0.10 divided by 12, the whole thing raised to 12 minus 1 equals to 0.1047 equals to 10.47%. And I just did this example in the calculator. Okay. So next thing I'm going to talk is simple versus compounding interest rate. Simple interest is basically interest paid on only on the original amount or the principal amount. If you borrow $100, the interest is going to be charged only on that $100. The interest earned at the rate of 6% for 5 years on a principal balance of $100. That's example of simple interest rate. Okay, so in simple interest, only the principal amount makes interest. For example, $100, 6% is $6. First year interest is $6. So in the second year again, your original amount, that $100 is going to make interest. Okay, so not your $106 is going to make interest. Only your principal amount earns interest. So every year is going to be $6, $6, $6. So the value at the end of the 5 year is going to be $100 plus the interest. Okay. How about the compounding interest? So compounding interest is basically every compounding period, every time period, your interest is going to earn interest. Okay. So first time period, you earn 6% interest on $100. So what happened was the first year interest is $100 times 6%. Okay, so at the end of the first year, you have $106. Okay, now in compounding interest, this $106 is gonna earn interest. So $106 with 6% is gonna make $6.36 interest. Same thing, next time period, again your interest is gonna add it back to your principal, and that's gonna earn interest again. So as you can see that the value of the $100 at the end of the 5 years is a lot different than, if you are using simple interest. So simple interest, you just made only $6 every time period. So 6 times 5 is 30. So 100 plus 30 is 130. That's the value at the end of the 5 years. But if you use compounding interest, the interest every time period it's going to earn interest in next time. Okay, so it's very effective. Before we move forward, let's watch this video about compounding interest.
You don't need to win $1 million in order to have $1 million. Start saving when you graduate and you can retire a millionaire. If a 25-year-old can save as little as $158 a month and earn an average rate of 10% a year, at the end of 40 years, they'll have $1 million, all due to compound interest.
So you know that compounding is very effective tool. In the beginning, you don't see how much the effect is of the compounding, but later on, the effect of compounding is going to be very significant. Okay, so here is another example of simple versus compounding interest rate. A future value of a single $1,000 deposit. So if you go from year 1 to year 30, in the beginning you don't see much difference. In 10 years you see it's a little bit different, but in year 20 a lot different, and in year 30 look at that, this the magic of compounding. So 10% compounding interest rate versus simple interest rate. So how much is the difference? Okay, so compounding is really a really important concept in finance. So this is the end of this time value of money lecture series part 1, and please try to understand this material. What is time value of money? Why is it important? Um, so why do you need to learn time value of money, finance, and also understand the difference between simple versus compounding interest rate. Make sure you understand the APR versus effective APR. So this is the important background information you need to know before you start, computing present value or future value. Thanks for watching this lecture video.